There we land. The first hurdle has passed for fantasy.
Does someone want to put 50p in Chaza?
No, it's all good. Sorry. I had to sort something out. I apologise. There we land. The first hurdle has passed for fantasy managers. Oh, God, that's already gone live now. Some are off to a flying start. Some are already in the road of mediocrity, potentially being caught in being unlucky. But we go again, as the saying goes, straight into another game week. And it's a second game week for the season. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to yet another edition, this time Game Week 2 for the new 24-25 season. Plenty of lessons, but we're only just getting started when it comes to lessons in being learnt. But in terms of our all-star cast, we remain unchanged of food analogies, the great personality on Merseyside especially, as I welcome my lovely guests for the evening in the quintessential podcasting. Quentin, first to you. Good evening to you.
How are you, mate? Good to be back. As I said, I'm always keen to come on the pod, and yeah, I'm a very available man this week, so I'm back on the pod after you kindly said I was allowed to come back on after too many food analogies last week.
Oh, mate, you're already his first sub, so that's how it is. We just use our substitute early on. And Rev, good afternoon to you as well, mate. You look raring to go. You got a big smile on your face.
Oh, mate. Well, it's because I've had like an infection in my lip, so I can't kind of help it at the moment. But apart from that, kind of ready to go. Kind of really looking forward to what we've got to say today. Thanks, Quentin, again for coming on the show. It's always great. I was saying to Chaza before, having Quentin on the show is kind of like when your mum takes you to Mackey's, but then Mackey's closed, and that's like the FPL Addicts podcast. But then you see the steakhouse next door, and then you get Quentin's absolutely expertise analysis as well. So yeah, it's all good, mate. Thanks for coming on.
No, definitely. Who doesn't like a good T-bone steak, medium rare, mate?
Exactly. And so, today, I think as well, there's a lot to talk about in the world of FPL. A lot of transfers being made, not just in game, but also in real life, which is causing people already a little bit of a bench dilemma. A lot of data that we have. I've done some little analysis, in the background. I've been wizarding away, looking at some underlying numbers, and I believe I found a really, really big glaring problem in some of our FPL teams already. So do stick around for that analysis as well later on in the show.
Well, speaking about glaring issues, just like the start of this podcast, let's just go straight into our Game Week 1 sides, because there are glaring issues galore for some, which probably includes myself. But Reverend, I have heard you have been working very hard behind the scenes in terms of setting up the team, especially for Game Week 1, and putting it all together. So it's not actually me who's going to be showing the Game Week 1 sides. It's going to Rev. I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, my pleasure, mate. My pleasure. So I'll just get our screen up here, but if you are listening along on the podcast as well, don't worry. I'll be explaining the visuals as well. So and Charlie, just in case I need to put another 50p in you. It's your job to share the screen, mate, as the host.
Yeah, there you go. I thought other people had powers.
No, I do not have the power, mate. It's only you who has the power. And as Gary Worthington says, addicts assemble. So yeah, here we go. Going to go straight in. Before we do the Game Week 1 review, let's just say hello to a bunch of people in the chat. Gary as well, the legend. Miriam, we love Miriam a lot on the pod. Miriam has always been a great supporter. Football Chat Box is in the chat as well. Really great to see you. So yeah, thanks for coming and showing up and listening to our nonsense yet again. So let's get into the game week 1 review. So first of all, we had these results. And as you can see, some really standout results there. The standout result for me as an Everton fan, and a lot of people were, having a little bit of a differential pick in Jordan Pickford or Mikalenko, only to see us get battered 3-0 at home. And it was an abysmal performance, even as an Everton fan. I can say that myself, so that's okay. So, Everton fans, don't come after me. I'm one of you, and I'm not happy as to what I saw. But, if you are in the chat and you had an Everton defender, you're probably going to be quite disappointed yourself as well.
Thanks for reminding me, Rev, from Mikalenko.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, but Chaza, starting with you, mate. Is there any particular result that stood out here for you, and what are the particular talking points from an FPL perspective that you found really helpful and useful moving forward?
Of all games, now I don't mean to put it back onto your side, but I feel the side that actually caught me by surprise from the get-go. And again, with these results, I know on a few podcasts, episodes in recent times, us as a collective, we can take well. So I'm only going to go one game. Brighton took me by surprise. I really like the look of their winners, especially Minte looked really good. They scored 3 goals. No one really mentioned him, and he ended up with a double-digit haul. I just thought they were all class. I felt before they scored their first goal, Everton were all right. But once they got their first one on the board, they were
it just all fell apart.
Full of confidence, yeah.
Yeah. And so for those of you in FPL who are looking at Brighton, their fixtures aren't amazing going forward, but they are certainly proving that they are a force to be reckoned with. Minte also maybe has perhaps picked up a little knock. Barco as well is another player that we have to talk about a little bit later who could be on the move. And also a fun stat for you Brighton fans out there, and also some Matoma fans. Matoma had the highest expected goal involvement from a data perspective out of every single player in the Premier League in game week 1. So Matoma, definitely like a forgotten player in terms of FPL, someone who wasn't really talked about as much pre-season, certainly as he was in pre-season last year. And so, yeah, battered Blues like a bad night at the Chippy. We did get battered, Gary. Yeah, we did, mate.
He's only saying
very
that because
unfortunately
on tonight.
Yeah, and Colm as well making a really good point, and this is something I said in our pre-season chat as well. Is he says it took Everton about 6 game weeks to get a clean sheet for the last 2 seasons, and Everton are typically a team that start very slow and we grow into a season. Maybe the Premier League need to give us another points deduction so we can finally get our rears in gear. But I'm going to go over to Q now. Quentin, is there a particular result that stands out for you here from an FPL's perspective to give us managers something to think about?
I'll quickly just touch on Everton. Actually, I feel bad for Everton because they were the better.
I feel
team.
bad for Everton too.
They were tearing Brighton apart in that first half. So a lot of people see the 3-0 scoreline, and this leads into my next point. With Brighton, a lot of people are going, 3-0, really good, solid performance, but defensively they were horrible in that first half. And it was only till they got the lead that they kind of kicked on a little bit. So I think that there's almost like a, I don't know how to say it, there's a smoke screen because my standout of the week was Manchester United's defense. So I actually thought defensively United scrambled really well. They gave up a couple of chances, but nothing like they gave up a lot of space to Fulham to work in, but they didn't really get anything like high percentage shots off apart from maybe 1 or 2. So for me, I think United's defense actually showed up and looked pretty decent. And I feel like if it wasn't for Bruno missing so many chances and Garnacho missing a couple of good chances, it could have easily been maybe like a 4-0 win. So I think heading into this fixture against Brighton, I actually think United can do a bit of damage against Brighton. I did not think Brighton looked good defensively at all in that first half. So I think there was a little bit of a band-aid solution there when they get the 3-0 win, but I still think there's glaring issues at the back there for Brighton. So yeah, those are my points.
Yeah, and I think that Everton and Man United are both suffering from a similar issue is that Everton and Man United both suffering from a similar issue. Is that Sorry, for some reason my phone just decided to start talking to me. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. So Everton and Man United suffering from a very similar issue right now, which is they both really struggling in front of goal. You see that in Man United's lack of a number 9 at the moment, and Bruno having to be kind of shoehorned in there. Obviously, he's great and he gets himself into great positions, but there were a couple of times where he didn't finish. Everton, very dominant in the first half, but as soon as we go 1-0 down, Everton are forced out of their comfort zone of being like a very deep side as well. And we struggle to get back into games. We really struggle to get back into the games. Why? Because we really struggle with finishing as well. A couple of other results that I would like to point out.
Rev,
but before we do that, Chaza.
Yeah, do you want me to put 50p in your machine after that echo? Like
I know. It's
help?
about time you got one of them, wasn't it, Chaza? But there was a thought experiment I did a little while back, pre-season, which was I was toying with the idea of big at the back. And there was a team that I made with Robertson, Trent, Gvardiol, Saliba, and also Lewis Hall. And we've got to keep an eye on the defences. If people can keep clean sheets this season, maybe big at the back is back, but that's we see the big teams as well all doing it. We see Liverpool doing it here. We see Arsenal doing it. We see Newcastle doing it. We see Man City doing it, and we see Man United doing it as well. And there's a little gem popping up, isn't there, Quentin, at left back? Maybe a little bit of a saviour. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Man United's new left back and how you feel like he did?
Yeah, Mazzarari, I thought he was really good. He didn't get quite as advanced as what Dello did consistently, but the way he won the ball and helped spark that attack, I think with another game under his belt, I could see him overlapping and getting into some decent areas. So I definitely think it's a watch. I think Shaw's maybe a couple of weeks away. And then I have a feeling that they might, even if Mazzarari continues to play well, they might just gradually give him bench minutes before they actually look at starting him. And then he might even play centrally like he did the previous season. So I think a short-term pick, I love him. So I think people should be looking at him.
Yeah, it's great. And that's the thing about these great teams with great defences, and here we see a lot of them keeping clean sheets, is that there are some really cheap options. We see in Newcastle, we've got Hall, and we've also potentially got Livramento, depending on what Kieran Trippier does. Liverpool did have Quansah, but obviously he was taken off with a knock, and he's one of the first victims of a price fall as well. Man City seem to be having an emerging potential really good option in the form of Rico Lewis as well at 4.5 million coming in as a defender. And especially if Kyle Walker does go to the Saudi League, he might just be, and I do want to avoid the E word, but he might be as close to essential as a defender might get in having access to Man City's defence at 4.5 million. And also when we watched him play, he was basically like a centre attacking midfielder, Rico Lewis. He was really inverting quite deep, kind of the way Kyle Walker does as well. So he's definitely one to keep our eyes on. So before we move on to our scores, Chaza and Quentin, is there any other players that really stood out for you that are on your watch list from this last game week?
I think Eze looked really good. No returns, obviously, with the with the strange decision. I don't know why he wouldn't have just let it go into the net before calling the whistle and then letting VAR sort it out, but he took that literally off the table, that option. So ridiculous. But I think he had something like 8 shots. And he looked like he hasn't missed a beat. So I thought he was a massive standout. And then in Burma, I thought he looked really good. Brentford on the counter were just tearing them to shreds. And I thought that in Burma definitely has kind of been under the radar a little bit compared to last season where a lot of people were on in Burmo early. I think it's maybe throwing a bit of a spanner in the works.
Yeah. He certainly is, and especially kind of like with the way last season started with Ivan Toney serving a suspension. We've got Mbemo again kind of being the talismanic player now at Brentford. And obviously Tony, I don't know what's going on in the background. Maybe he's angling for a move out of Brentford, but he doesn't seem to be in the coach's good books at the moment. And so, maybe it's a case of striking the iron whilst it's hot from Burmo. Yeah, Chaza.
Are you guys going to talk about Johan Visser one day, or does he not exist in your world? Like, he got a double-digit haul, a goal and an assist.
Yeah, well, Visser again, could be great. Well, why don't you? You're on the pod as well, Chaza. Look, I'll put 50p in you, and you can start talking as well.
Sure. Well, I'm not sure about the visagery of me when I say this, but I thought he looked exceptional. He's probably not the right time to buy at the moment, but when the fixture swings do arrive in game week 6, when it turns to Brentford and Arsenal, I feel he's going to be a good target. And he, especially in double game weeks last season for other sides, but Brentford having single game weeks, he was an exceptional single game week player on both of the respective double game weeks in the back end of last season.
Great, so plenty to think about there in game week 1, and in the comments as well, if a player has particularly stood out or not stood out and really let you down, let us know in the comments, and we'd love to join you in a conversation about that. Moving on to our game weeks. So first of all, we've got myself, the FPL Rev, coming in with a total of 63 points. Obviously the most aesthetically pleasing game week 1 draft of all. There was a last minute change from our team last week. I removed Rodgers of Aston Villa, who awkwardly looked really good for the man himself, the £5 million Manchester United asset, Amad Diallo, and he looked all right, I guess, but I feel like he was maybe a little bit lost without an out-and-out number 9 in front of him, which was a little bit awkward. But, locking in that clean sheet point, he was pretty good. Lewis Hall, Trent and Pedro Porro all coming away with some tasty FPL points for me. The big disappointment for me this week was obviously Jacob Murphy, who was the tactical sacrificial lamb for when Fabian Schär was sent off. It was Jacob Murphy who was immediately sacrificed, which, it happens, but it always seems to happen to me, which is one of those things, I guess. So hopefully this week coming, I'll get to see a little bit more from Jacob Murphy and that great form that he showed in pre-season. Diogo Jota doing Diogo Jota things. Really, really clinical finisher and was great playing at number 9. One of the things that I really liked about Diogo Jota was that Darwin Núñez didn't even come off the bench. So that's, gives me a little bit of hope that his minutes maybe could be a little bit more secure than we ever thought they were. I'll come to Son a little bit later because I've got a few thoughts on Son which are quite concerning, but I'll come to that later in the pod. Isak, a lot of managers backed him. I backed him with the armband and he got the goal, which was all right. Did miss out on an extra 2 points there by not captaining Haaland, and then obviously Solanke as well. Again, not setting the world alight against Leicester as we thought, but I think having a little bit of patience with Solanke could be key here. And so yeah, that's my team, boys. Feel free to field any questions. And Colm, he says, who's getting triple captained in game week 4? It's me. I'm captaining myself, mate, because I'm a legend.
Mate, I was with you with the Jacob Murphy And that's
Yeah,
one
the
reason
Jacob
why
Murphy pain.
I
Yeah.
refused to own Brereton Diaz this year just for that one incident. It was like frustrating. I woke up to watch the game and then I went straight back to bed as soon as he got subbed off after 28 minutes. So.
Yeah, Brereton Diaz essentially just walks up to Fabian Schär, headbutts him, and then Schär gets sent off.
I was under the opinion he should have been sent because it was a dead ball. The ref had blown the whistle.
Yeah.
It stopped, and then he just goes up and hits him from behind, knocks him to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, I don't know how any referee doesn't send them both off, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you send off anyone in that situation, for me, it's Brereton Diaz because I feel like Schär just stands his ground. You know, I feel like Schär just stands his ground. He could have, the Alex Ferguson meme, he could have killed him.
And I think you're unlucky with Solanke as well. I thought Solanke looked really good, had a lot of good chances, but as Spurs, they could have had 5 or 6 goals in that first half. I'm surprised Ange didn't strangle anyone at halftime, to be fair.
Yeah, it's true. And I feel like Brennan Johnson as well was a little bit like stop and go, you know, a little bit hit and miss.
I think Son was a little bit slow as well. Like that run from the Brennan Johnson cross that went back post. Yeah. Every other week you would have seen last year.
You see him flying in, like attacking that back post, yeah. But for some reason, maybe it's just because it's, you know, the first game of the season, he isn't maybe quite as switched on as he should be.
He should have had some of Vardy's Red Bull.
Yeah, he should have, and a ciggy, and a shot of port is what he has, isn't it? Yeah, Gary says Blanky Solanke, yeah. But the thing is, as an FPL manager, what I've got to keep telling myself is that he is Spurs' number 9. You know, the goals will come with Solanke. Spurs are a team that do create a lot of chances. He's got some great creative players behind him as well. James Maddison, who's not been really talked about as an FPL pick, he looked really silky as well. His passing looked to be spot on. But yeah, anyway, that's my team. Chaza, any thoughts on this team?
I just think it looks pleasing from a colour perspective, and that's about it. 63 is a solid start. Won't say much. It's a long season.
Yeah. Yeah, triple captain in game week 4. That's just the graphic. I've obviously forgotten to change. But yeah, triple captain in game week 4 last week was a great shout. Last year was a great shout in Erling Haaland against Fulham. I was on it, Quentin. I was on it. I knew. Anyway, we're just going to put Reidy here on blast. Well, I say on blast. He's done very well.
Mate, he's putting his feet up at the moment. I hope he's putting his feet up after game week 1 and just not touching his team for the rest of the season. That would be nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if he didn't touch his team for the rest of the season, I feel like this team would do quite well. It feels like a really good set and forget team, doesn't it? So yeah, again, not too much to write home about other than Emile Smith-Rowe here.
Think about me. Think about, it's Emile Smith-Rowe.
Yeah, he looked all right. He looked all right against Manchester United. Obviously, he didn't last the whole game. But it was interesting, and but we'll talk about the other Fulham asset as well when we go to Chaza's team as well. So here's Chaza with a 51.5 mega haul,
baby. Look at me, relegation battle style. Here we go, or should I say, there we land on the.
I can't remember the last time I was above Chaza in a mini league, so this is great. This is great. I'm lapping this up.
Yeah, look, I'm glad you are, because Quentin seen my Facebook during the week, and mentally, I'm already prepared for the 2025-26 season. Like, this season's a write-off for me already. No, it was just look, it was an unlucky week. The Liverpool assets delivered, the Man City ones did. And Isak got an assist, but like I said, but you pick these players in the first place, except I don't know why I picked Mikalenko. Actually, I'll tell you why, because I couldn't actually find a better option than 4.5 price gap. So I just sort of rolled with him. It's a tough run, and they do start slow. But we go again game week 2. Can I say that? I hope so.
Yeah, good stuff. Obviously, we've spoken about Eze as well. The Eze pain. And Quentin, if you just get ready to share your screen as well for
actually
Chaza.
got Quentin's team.
Oh, if you got Quentin's team. And I feel like you can both share in a little bit of pain here, which is Muniz blank.
Yeah, I think
after the hype, boys, I'm embarrassed for you.
Mate, did you see his bicycle kick that almost went in, mate? That's what he does. He just does stuff like that.
Yeah, he almost scores. That's what he does. Yeah, he almost scores all the time.
What he does.
Mate, this week it's coming,
what
mate.
He does.
Mate, Muniz is going to do what Solanke couldn't do week 1 against Leicester, mate. It's coming.
Yeah,
it's coming. But yeah, I feel like the point swing week 1 was just like probably the worst you could see. Like you had people like myself that went Haaland instead of Salah Horde. You had people like myself who went Son instead of Saka and Saka Horde. And then you had the enablers. So I went like the Jacob Murphy, and then some people went, elsewhere, and then Jacob Murphy gets subbed off at the 28-minute mark. So I feel like, and even Muniz,
very unlucky.
People went Christmas Wood over Muniz, and Christmas Wood scored as well. So, and Havertz as well was the other third striker.
Sorry, just quickly.
Christmas
I love
Wood.
how confident Rev knew he was about to last, so he decided to mute himself.
Yeah. Well, it's because he said Christmas Wood, and I wasn't expecting it. I mean, do you like a bit of Christmas Wood, guys?
Exactly.
Do you get a bit of wood at Christmas?
July. So I think, the swing was just crazy. But I think I had a lot of people inboxing me saying, should they wild card and stuff? And I said, no, like the swing's going to be back this way. So the people that were hiding behind the couch for Salah week 1 are going to then be enjoying watching people hide behind the couch for Haaland week 2. So, and, I think Villa's a tough fixture for Saka as well this week. So I think Son possibly against Everton might be able to turn the tables on that war. And I think Muniz definitely this week can outscore both Havertz and Christmas Wood. So I think the fixture,
bold statement.
The point change could happen this week. So as much as it was disappointing, I'll take for once my defenders actually did stuff. So I had Poro, Trent.
Yeah, it's a full house back there.
Full house.
And the magic man Onana. I'm glad I didn't listen to my co-host who told me to go Pickford. So
that never happened. I'm denying it.
Quentin, what was your score again?
58.
Okay.
58. Cool. And
my 3-year-old beat me convincingly this week. So that goes to show my state of FPL.
Nice. I think there are some potential backswings now. We are going to hit people on the backswing. People who went without Salah. It's our turn now. Remember, you do pick a fantasy team, not just for one game week. Your fantasy team isn't for one game week; it's for life. And we do have several game weeks now where Erling Haaland is possibly easily the best captaincy shout, and he faces, Quentin, a newly promoted side, and you've got some good stats about that, right?
Yes, I do. So I'm actually on the triple captaincy this week. I haven't officially locked it in, but I'm about 90%.
You're on the
guaranteed.
TC.
Yeah. So
breaking news: Quentin is hitting the triple captaincy button in game week 2 versus Ipswich. What's made you do that? What is it that you've seen that you feel everyone else is missing?
At first, I wasn't really thinking too much about it. Then I think I had about 6 questions on our podcast on Tuesday night about people asking if it's a good week. And I thought, what kind of podcaster would I be if I don't go do a bit of a deep dive? So I had a look, and I sort of had a look at the most teams that liked to press last season. And then obviously come up with Brighton, Man U, Spurs, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Burnley, and Bournemouth. Then I had a look at the teams that didn't finish in the top 4, which obviously ruled out Arsenal and Liverpool. Then I had a look at how City did against those teams that like to press, and it come back with City didn't lose a game. They won 10, scored 44 goals, had 43 chances created, and had 207 shots in those games. So from what I saw from the eye test last season, when teams try to press City literally just battered them. So I thought, I wonder how Haaland did. So then I had a look at Haaland. So he only played 9 games against these pressing teams last season, had 10 goals, 3 assists, 42 shots, and 13 big chances missed. So now I'm thinking, wait a minute, this could be one of those games where we saw Fulham last year. What do you have, the 4 goals against Fulham?
Well, that was when I hit the TC last season, yeah.
And then saw the FA Cup against Burnley. I think he scored 5 against Burnley. And all I can just picture is KDB hitting those 30-yard through balls and putting Haaland in on goal. And we saw in the first half how much Ipswich pressed Liverpool, and they struggled to deal with it for the first 50 minutes. But then they started to tire. Salah started to get a bit of joy, got the goal, got the assist. I think City, in my opinion, probably attack pressing teams the best out of anyone in the Premier League. So I think with Foden, Foden possibly starts. KDB, even though Doku doesn't like to pass, I still think there's enough firepower for Haaland to get in on goal. And at least, I'm pretty confident at least 2 goals, but I could see a ceiling where it could be 4 goals. So I think earlier in the season, I think you're going to get a massive, massive boost because he's only 50% owned or 53% owned. So for once in forever, like I reckon by the end of the season, when the double game weeks come around, he could be around that 70 to 80% owned. So I think not only are you getting a potential to get some massive rank boost, but I think it's a really good fixture.
Really interesting stuff there, Quentin, and I do like it. The logic is quite similar to mine last season, and that really paid off for me. For me last season, it was a case of Man City at home against a Fulham side who looked awful in the first 3 game weeks. It was a case of I think Fulham's defensive midfielder was out injured, Paulina, and they were conceding a lot of chances down the centre of the pitch, which is where Haaland particularly thrives. And they were conceding big chances as well. So, yeah, best of luck to you, dude. I'm not sure I'm going to be joining you. I don't think I'm brave enough to go on just 1 game week's worth of information. That will probably be my only criticism of it. But fortune hopefully favours the brave, and we'll see you being close to rank 1 in the world, mate. With that Haaland spicy triple cap.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think obviously you'd like probably a bigger sample size, but then I think it's one of those things where, you could wait towards the end of the season, but then you look at, there's not as many double game weeks this year. There's the mystery chip. So what's the mystery chip going to be? Is that going to be a beneficial chip to use for a double game week? So I feel like...
I think it might be all out attack. That's my speculation on it. Do you remember the old school all out attack chip from back in the day? I think we might just get that. Just
could be triple captain. Could be a triple captain chip.
A second triple captain
quadruple. So it'd be 4 times the points. But
or the other option would be a limitless chip.
Yeah.
Where we just go and pick absolutely any players that we want, play without a budget for 1 week. That could be really fun. So looking forward.
And a lot of people are saying that Ipswich won't go play like they did against Liverpool away from home, but they don't have the players like a Southampton that can park the bus. Their players don't have, they tried to park the bus in that second half against Liverpool, and that they just struggled to do it. So I think in that case, I just don't think they're going to play a different way.
Fair play. Yeah, I mean, they've got to stick to the guns. It's game week 2. They're not going to just change tactics now on everything that they've been working on just because it didn't work once against Liverpool, right? They've got to expect the loss there.
And speaking to the manager at the start of the season, he kind of just pretty much said the first 2 games of the season, not expecting anything. He said it'll be after game week 2 is when our season starts. So that tells me all I need to know.
And the thing is that they're probably just going to go for it. What have they got to lose? You are right in that, Ipswich kind of can play with no expectations, no pressure, and just really throw everything at City. But as Quentin, you quite rightly pointed out, mate, is that City are one of the best counter-attacking teams, and when pressed, are one of the most likely punishers in world football, never mind just the Premier League. So, yeah, let's keep our eyes on that.
Certainly. You mentioned before in regard to sticking to your guns and Liverpool, and that sort of is just a nice segue to the next point, and that is managers sticking to their guns when it comes to Quansah, who is getting up there to becoming the most transferred out, got hooked off by half-time, and managers have already got a big decision to make after one game. Some have transferred him out early to avoid the price drop, but some are just going to stick by him for the meantime. Personally, for me, before I go to Rev and Quentin, I think if you've got Quansah as a third playing defender and you got other two 4.0s who just look to start off a bench, get him out as quickly as possible. But for others, I think having more information may help if you've got a backup defender. Rev, Quansah time, or is it from Quansah to Quansah time?
I've heard a couple of arguments on this. Well, not arguments, discussion points. And I feel like both of them have merit. Obviously, when you see a player get hooked off at half-time, you do wonder why. Some people have speculated because they feel like the performance wasn't great. I don't feel like his performance was that bad, actually. I feel like they controlled the game incredibly well. The other explanation that I've heard, other than he performed badly, is that it was a tactical change. So obviously, Konate has a lot more physical presence and a lot more of an aerial threat. And perhaps that's something that Arne Slot was looking to capitalise on in that moment. But ultimately, unless we can, go and ask Arne Slot himself, what were you thinking? Ultimately, we don't know. And so, for me, FPL works best when you're working with the knowns and not the unknowns. And so, Quansah right now is definitely an unknown quantity. Unknown quantity.
Not that it will probably work, but I like it. It's good.
Yeah. Oh, maybe I shouldn't. I'm about to get roasted in the chat for saying an unknown quantity. But he is. We don't know too much about him just yet. We don't know if he's nailed. But I think people saw the 4.5 million price tag and just went, yeah, go on then. I'll have a little bit of that. But I wasn't too convinced. And if I had him, I'd definitely be tempted to get rid of him, especially now that he's dropped in price. It's going to be punishing that team value really early, and that's not how you want to start a season ultimately.
Yep, no, I have a feeling that he's going to play this weekend. I think the way Ipswich were pressing Liverpool, I think they did that change to try counter the press. And Konate, well, he didn't light the house on fire. He didn't set the world on fire, but I think it was more the fact that Quansah just wasn't dealing with the press, trying to play out from the back. He just couldn't do it. So I think that's why.
Which is interesting, because I feel like that's why he made the team over Konate in the first place.
Yeah, which is crazy, because that's what I got told. He could ball play really well.
Yeah, he's supposed to be the ball playing defender and to partner Van Dijk really well, but something about it clearly the manager felt needed changing, and we ultimately don't know what.
So it'd be interesting to see if he starts this week. You might get that 0.1 back, because then people will be getting him back in the team. But I personally think that could be a factor, or it could be that he thought he was going to be better than he was, and then when he realised he wasn't, he's like, we need to fix it straight away.
Gary knows something.
Indeed, it is indeed a Quansah quandary.
That's not a fancy team name, to be fair.
Yeah, let us know
Yeah.
in the comments what you're doing with Quansah if you've got him, or
Well,
what you would do if you did.
so for those that are holding on and have probably succumbed to the price drop in 4.4, and they've got no money in the bank, the only way is to go to potentially a 4.0 defender. And we're back on 4.0 defenders watch. But we did get a lot of information over one weekend already. Now, Johnson from Ipswich was benched. Barco, I think he's gone to Barcelona. Let's face it. Like, he's off to Sevilla out on
Barcelona.
loan. Yeah, something like that. So, and he was very popular during pre-season.
Mm-hmm.
There was Mascara for Wolves who started. There was Greaves from Ipswich. Was there anyone else probably within that 4.0 watch who may have stood out to you? First to you, Quentin, then Rev.
Mm-hmm.
I thought FaZe from Leicester didn't go too bad. Obviously doesn't have the attacking upside as some other assets, but I think that you could do worse, really. You could do Quansah or Barco. So I think definitely FaZe. Leicester second half looked a lot better defensively. First half shambles. So I definitely think he could just be a placeholder. You're playing when you need to play him and then bench him when you don't really need to use him. So
yeah, definitely.
What are people expecting out of a 4.0 defender? Are they wanting returns, or are you wanting 2 points just in case that person gets ruled out at the last minute?
Yeah, it's 2 points, isn't it? And anything else is an absolute bonus. So for me, obviously, last week I was very much a part of the Johnson hype train, and I'm still part of the Johnson hype train. I feel like for a new signing, this is normal to get subbed on. I was never planning on playing Johnson in the first couple of weeks anyway.
So you've swapped carriages, but you're still on the train.
Oh yeah, I've swapped. Well, I know I'm still. Everything is going according to plan. Still, because Johnson didn't start, but we don't expect new transfers to start. I feel like Dominic Solanke is very much the exception that proves the rule, and so he's going to come in. He's going to get bedded into the team, nice and easy. And when he is from game week 3, we'll see, him starting to play a much more attacking role, and yeah, hopefully that works out really well for Ipswich.
Did you see Johnson actually got subbed on out wide for 25 minutes till they brought on a midfielder? So that's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. It's got similar vibes as to when we were wondering as to whether or not Trippier was injured. But then we saw Trippier and Livramento on the same pitch, so we were like, well, what's going on? Because Dan Burns on the pitch as well. Where on earth is Livramento?
Yeah.
Turns out he's playing as a winger, and
I was thinking the same thing. I didn't know where that come from. I was just like, why is Burn on the pitch, Trippier on the pitch, Livramento on the pitch?
Mm-hmm. And it turns out it's because our cheap FPL dream is a defender playing very much as a recognised forward. And so Johnson gives me very, very similar vibes to that, but I don't know what other people think about that. But I'm very much keeping Johnson on my bench right now, ready to strike when those fixtures turn into gold, and I might need a little bit of cover as well. And I'm very happy to have a forward as a 4 mil defender. I do not mind that one bit.
Well, and you're not really expecting much, but a little bit upside, I think. Yeah.
Quentin, it sounds like someone turned up with a barbecue ribs, but didn't really tell anyone.
Exactly. Yeah, you get told that there's corn meat at home. You get home and it's a full rack of ribs, mate, and you're loving life. It's the small things in life, mate.
Love it. Love the food analogies.
Mate, if you don't tell, I really dislike corned meat, so I was always filthy when it was the other way around. When I got told we're having like tacos or steak for dinner and I get home and it's corned meat with white sauce, and I'm like, mate, this is a stitch up for sure.
A stitch up. Love it.
It's great. That's a cracker. Rev, there is a burning agenda, and it starts in the sun.
There is. And before we go to my stats, Chaza, don't get it up just yet. I think there's an issue in my team. well, there's a potential issue, guys, potential issue. And I don't know what a lot of other people think about Heung Min Son. And the issue that I have, apart from a barking dog in the background, is...
That's not me. I've got a cat. Don't blame me.
Yeah,
That's me.
The issue that I have is that it reminds me very much of an issue that we had last year. So if we remember, and I can't believe that I've forgotten all about this, and I feel like I might have made a big mistake in bringing Son into my team, is because people who had Son in their team last year will remember that when Richarlison was playing as a number 9, shut up, Reidy. When Richarlison was playing as a number 9, we had a huge drop-off in Heung Min Son's expected data, and also his output in terms of an FPL asset decreased dramatically. Now, obviously, Spurs have signed Dominic Solanke, which, what else was going to happen? Like, we thought we were going to get, last season, we thought we were going to get Son playing right through the middle and Richarlison playing on the left, typically, where Richarlison played for Everton the season before that. Instead, what we got was we had Richarlison playing through the middle and Son playing on the left, and we saw Son's data and FPL points decrease dramatically. Eventually, they swapped back, where Richarlison was playing on the left and Son was playing through the middle, and we saw a huge increase in Son's data and a huge increase in the output of Son's FPL points. And no, Colm, it's not Martin Rashford, unfortunately. However, I've got some stats here, and let's just pull them up, Chaz. So just to explain what I'm talking about, on the right here, we see a couple of graphs. The top one is a graph on Son's expected data and what about your Mars data, says Reidy. Oh, I mean, she's sound. Thanks for asking. The top graph here is Son's data of outputs and expected data when playing as a forward. So here we see as a forward, that's been highlighted there. And we see that his expected goal contributions are 0.47 as expected goals per 90. When playing as a forward through the middle is 0.47. If we go to the graph at the bottom, I've highlighted when he's playing as an attacking midfielder on the left or as a forward on the left, and we see his expected goals per 90 drop by half, well, nearly half. And so his expected goals, you can expect him to get half as many goals when he's playing on the left as to when he's playing as a centre forward. And for me, that's really concerning. And so looking at Spurs playing, I was like, no, surely this can't be true. Surely not. Maybe Son is playing maybe a little bit off Solanke, but also we remember James Maddison is a thing, and Maddison is the one who's going to be a bit more central. So I was like, oh, say it isn't so. So I went to SofaScore, who do a lot of really good heat maps. And on the left here, we see Son's heat map from the game. And as we can see, lads, what's a favourite phrase of mine? He's shagging the touchline. He's shagging the touchline. He's doing the opposite of what I thought he was going to do. And Bukayo Saka did the opposite of shagging the touchline last season. So very much have got myself into a bit of a pickle here, because if Son lines up against Everton and we see a very similar heat map again, is he worth 10 million? When his expected data outputs here are half as good as when he's playing in the centre in a forward role. So I've got an issue. I believe I've got an issue. And at the moment, I'm about 75% sure that I'm going to transfer Son out.
The 1 week.
From 1 week. Don't for 1 week me, Chaza. You got a boy who's got a triple captain Haaland based off of one. I'm making a transfer, bro. My boy is pulling the trigger on one of the best chips of the season. Now,
This is why this is the best podcast in the world, mate.
it is, yeah, it is. So, Reidy says it's an easy downgrade. Is there any money in the bank? Now, if I had 0.5 in the bank, Cole Palmer, easy. Right, that would be
What
a
about
great decision.
KDB?
KDB, I feel like, is not an option right now because of the Rodri absence. And therefore, KDB is probably going to be playing slightly deeper. The other option, of course, is Saka. And that would just be the easy move, right? That'd be the absolutely easy move. My only issue that I have with Saka is that the next 3 fixtures aren't amazing. And Saka is a player that I was going to be looking to get in anyway around game week 5 or 6. So that's an issue. The other option that I have is I could just downgrade and bank the money to someone like Eze. Eze looked fantastic. The last option, which I'm leaning towards the most, was a player who came on as a substitute last week for Manchester City at half-time. And that man is Phil Foden. 33 starts last season. Player of the season. One of the top scoring FPL midfielders. Now, the other option, of course, is, as Colm says, is I could roll the transfer. But when you've got someone like Phil Foden playing against Ipswich, who came on at half-time, could be ready to start again now, I'm thinking, ooh, that could be tasty.
It's getting tasty, baby.
But what do you think, lads? First of all, is my analysis correct? Do you think that he is a sell, or do you think that he's a hold? Especially given that Dominic Solanke can't play left wing.
You go, Q.
I thought it was a little bit concerning, like you, Rev. But I'm also on the point of we've got Everton this week. Shambles. Defensively, I just think maybe a 2-week sample size, and then because I'm in the same position, if I see the same thing against Everton, I think then I'm going to look at moving him on and possibly using the extra transfer and maybe moving on a Watkins up top there. So using the Son money to downgrade and then maybe upgrading to a Watkins, or even upgrading to a I've got 0.5 in the bank to go to Palmer. So
wait, what do you mean upgrading to Watkins? I thought Muniz was the best thing ever, guys.
Well, it might be even moving off Haaland or possibly an Isaac.
Whoa, now that's bold.
Wow,
that is bold. But Chaza, what do you think about Heung Min Son? Is he a £10 million issue?
First of all, what a terrific Ted's Talking analysis. Like, you've done more and conjured up a lot more in 15 minutes than I probably would have had when it comes to analytical perspective than I've ever done on this podcast. So fair play to you.
That's what the Rev brings, man. I bring analytics and I bring some data, and I try and make data-backed the decisions, and everything I'm seeing, I absolutely hate.
No, mate,
hate it.
You've done a great job. You bring
and let's also, something I haven't touched on here is expected goals per 90.
Can I answer your question? Is that all right?
Yeah. Well, just quickly to show, is expected goals per 90 0.47 against Leicester 0.03. 0.03, dude. Yeah. So go on. What do you think, dude?
Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. I felt
no, it's all good.
But it's kind of funny. No, not at the moment. Give them 1 to 2 more weeks.
You would hold?
I'm holding, yeah. I think banking another transfer is far more valuable than having 2 weeks worth of information.
I feel like this is kind of my point, though. I feel like we just don't have only 2 weeks worth of information. We've got a whole bunch of information from last season. And whereas Richarlison, they did spend 50 million on him, and they, of course, were going to play him every game week. the difference with Richarlison for me is that Richarlison can play on the left. Ange isn't going to say to Levy, get me in Solanke and then just stop playing him through the middle. Is it like, he's not going to go back on himself like that, is he? He's going to back his decision to bring him in as a transfer. And we're going to see Son like this in areas like this again instead of like right here in the box. Like what I want to see from Son is a lot more central around here, just around this penalty spot, which is kind of where he was last season on average when playing as a striker. I feel like I'm just convincing myself now. I feel like I'm convincing myself that I'm going to transfer him out.
Okay. I'd be interested to see Maddison's heat map, because Maddison seemed to be doing the overlapping runs of Solanke more than what Son was, which I was hoping Son was going to be doing the overlapping runs and getting centrally in behind Solanke.
Yeah. So I have had a look at Maddison's heat map. Obviously, I can't bring it up right now, but Maddison's heat map, right? So you see the way Son is here all over the left. Maddison's heat map is very deep. Maddison's heat map lies in between the box, between the halfway line and the box, and he's got some in the edge of the box on the left and some on the edge of the box on the right as well when he's going in to support the bombing on fullbacks, but again still quite deep. And so the idea behind both Son and Maddison appears to be that they are going to be feeding Dominic Solanke. Their output is going to decrease to hopefully increase a player who's going to play in the middle and be potentially as clinical, or they're going to hope to be as clinical as Harry Kane.
Yeah, but no, definitely. I think you made some really good points there, and I was seeing the same thing. As I said, I felt like Son was just a touch, like not slow, but just like he wasn't warmed up, and it's almost like I'm hoping in the Everton game we see that attack click and be clinical, whereas you're probably going to move on if he blinks again this week. And I guess at that price point, you've got a lot of options in Saka or Foden, or but then there's a tempted Foden against Ipswich, which has to happen this week if you're wanting to take
exactly. And this is why I'm thinking, like, do I move right now? Because Ipswich, Quentin, you've said it yourself, mate, that you're going to triple captain Haaland. Like, you're expecting big things from Man City against this Ipswich side who are going to press Man City, and probably they're going to, F around and find out in quite a big way. My mate Tom Turner, hello Tom, welcome. A lot of good expected assist data from Maddison, but again, we want our midfielders to score goals as well, and they are some really interesting stats again. For he says roll on, and Chaza is telling us to roll, but there's some stats like who is going to be scoring the goals in this Tottenham side. And I feel like it's either those bombing on wingers, which Ange really loves. And by the way, loving having Pedro Porro. I'm definitely keeping him. I feel like it was just a knock, by the way. Reidy says he has a slight Porro headache. I don't think it's that big of a headache.
I didn't see a moon boot or an ice pack in sight in the photos from the change room.
Exactly. So he's going to be great. But this team is set up to give Dominic Solanke the goals.
Yeah,
that's the whole tactic. That's what the data is pointing towards. That's what the heat maps are pointing towards. That's what the analytics is pointing towards. And as FPL managers, I am concerned as a Son owner.
Okay.
No,
well, that's pretty cool to see, man. Yeah, I'm just going to vibe and see what happens on Saturday.
Yeah, fair play. So just going to keep hold of him. Fair play.
Yeah, for now. That's correct. Well,
if I get any news that Phil Foden is going to start,
you're going to move.
I am on that.
You're on.
I'm on it.
Wow.
I'd be tempted as well, actually. I'd be pretty tempted.
Yeah, after this expert analysis, mate.
Yeah, I think between that and me just doing a deep dive into Haaland land, I'm sort of almost one foot on the boat.
Yeah, it genuinely could be a 6-0.
And I love Ipswich. I think Ipswich are going to stay up, but I think there's teams that you can press and there's teams that you can't press against. And City, pure violence, as I said.
100% agree. There are certain teams that Ipswich will show up against and they will rock them playing the way that they're playing, because they'll not be prepared for how good Ipswich actually are at doing this. But there are certain giants that that you can't do this against, and Man City is one of them. I feel like this is really great practice. This is just a practice session for Ipswich. They're going to practice the way that they're playing without any fear, without any pressure, without any expectation of a result. And that means potential FPL returns for our players.
That's fair. I love it. Well done, Rev. Top stuff. What an incredible effort from you. Now, I was aware just before that you may have to go in due course. So is it time to go straight to our Gameweek 2 sides? And we'll start with you.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, at the minute, we'll see. If I just share my screen here, boss.
Or not. Quentin, how good were live transfers last season? They were just awesome, weren't they? They were great to watch.
Mate, they're the best. I should activate the triple captaincy live on the podcast tonight.
Well, you can always undo it and then just redo it.
Yeah. Possibly, yeah. Well, I didn't know that was a thing. I thought it was once you lock in, it's done. So that's why I've been reluctant to lock it in till I get news that there's no injuries.
I just locked
in. So just the one change for me outside of any potential Son move. I've got Ahmad on the bench and I've brought in Nkunku off the bench. There, Nkunku ready to play against Wolves. A player that I feel like we haven't really talked about, to be honest. I need to see something from him this week as well.
The Minions.
From Gru and the Minions side from Chelsea. And it's obviously Man City and Man City, and we can't judge, our Chelsea asset here too harshly. But at the same time, out of all of the players there, he's certainly one who could potentially be on the chopping block if he doesn't perform.
I was actually made me a little bit more confident in Chelsea assets in the Maresca press conference where he said they've only got 22 players in the first team squad and the rest are just off doing their own thing. And he's told multiple players that you can stay, but you're not going to play. So as much as it was pretty brutal, I think it maybe gives people a lot more positivity around Chelsea assets that there's not. He's not picking a side from 48 players.
It makes me think that maybe even someone like Pedro Neto could become an option with the rumors that are flying around about Raheem Sterling. He's multiple Premier League winner Raheem Sterling. He's got 4 of them in his locker. He's got the experience, and I just think, wow, he's a player that this manager has come in and he's told you're welcome to a locker, mate. But other than that, see ya.
Yeah, enjoy the free buffet breakfast every morning before training, but that's about as close as you're going to get to the first team.
Yeah, 100%.
Love it.
So, that's my team at the moment.
You going to make a move?
When is the deadline? Is
Saturday, 11 o'clock BST, 8 o'clock AEST. Just remember that, Quentin, not too many beers beforehand.
I'm at work, mate, so I'll be sober, rolling into a Man United battering of Brighton and then possibly rolling into a Haaland triple captaincy and then 4 hours sleep and then back to work.
Yeah.
You're not making your move live? No.
No, I'm gonna try and get some team. No, I'm gonna try and get some team news tomorrow, and if I can get some team news tomorrow, then potentially.
Okay. Rev,
potentially we could
on
go
this, for example, if you had 5 free transfers, would you make a live transfer?
Pardon? If I have 5 free transfers?
Yeah, so if this was game week 6 or 7 and you had like 5 transfers, you haven't used any of them yet, would you make one?
No, I'd still make the team. I'll still wait for some team news. Yeah.
Oh my god,
mate! I can't describe to you like how much I'm trying to learn my lessons this season. I'm sorry if this is bad to watch. I really am, but I'm going to be dead boring this year. Look at my team. My team is quite boring. You know, it's a boring team.
That's all right.
You know, I've got Raya in goal, lads. Boring. Trent, everyone's got him. Boring.
To be fair,
Pedro Porro, everyone's got him. Boring. Diego Jota, everyone's got him. Boring. Isaac, everyone's got him. Boring. Haaland, everyone's got him. Boring. Like, the only players who are, like, spicy, like, don't even matter that much. Like, Jacob Murphy is just, like, a £2 million cheaper Gordon, who I'm not expecting loads from anyway. And then Kunku, everyone's got him. Boring. I'm being boring this season, guys.
Hey, Raya's different. There's if you had Henderson in goals, I would agree, but Raya's is somewhat a differential.
Yeah, but it's too solid, you know, and therefore boring. It's like, yeah, Arsenal's goalkeeper for 5.5 mil. No attacking return. Like, I'll take 2 points or 6 points every week, and I will sit there and eat that meal of plain chicken and broccoli every week.
Well, he might get save points. He'll get save points this week against Aston Villa. So dig into a couple of those, mate. Sprinkle a bit of
I'll dig in. Yeah.
Love it, Rev. Good side. Best of luck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cheers.
Yeah.
But other than that, boys, I'm gonna have to take my leave.
Rev, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. And I'll
thank you for putting anti Son
propaganda. Yeah. Well, let us know in the comments what you're doing. I'll look forward to coming back to the video tomorrow and having a look at some of the comments and see what we're doing. But other than that, lads, always a pleasure. You know, you guys are like the cherry on top of my cake of the week.
Boys night on the Addicts
Legends. All right, cheers everyone. Thank you.
So for those who just really was here to just watch a Rev, it's done. But this episode isn't, because guess what? We're going straight into Quentin's side. Quentin, is your side any moves?
So I've benched Hall and started Robertson. Just you know, that was always the plan, with especially how attacking Robertson looked against United. So I definitely want to be involved. So I think we're going to hear Robertson to Meniz goal at least once on the weekend. So I'm pretty confident of that. But obviously, if the Porro yellow flagged, I'm going to have Hall that'll come on anyway. So if Porro does get ruled out, Hall comes on. So, and you know, I really wanted to start Smith Rowe, but there's no one I really wanted to take off my starting lineup to put him in. So, you know, backing Rashford, hopefully, if he does lay the ball on a platter for Garnacho again this week, he's actually going to finish and we're going to get some returns. But I liked the signs from Rashi. I think he looked all right for a person that didn't score any points. He looked all right. So I'm pretty confident heading into this game week. And as I said, triple captaincy on Haaland. Going to live by the sword. I definitely think it's a great single game week. And I've been burned a couple of times on double game weeks when I went the triple captain. So I'm kind of just going, well, it fits the criteria of a calculated risk, I think, this week. So yeah, Haaland triple captaincy for me. I think it could possibly be amazing, or it could just be leave a bad taste in my mouth. But I'm leaning towards it being a decent thing. And I sort of put the expectation at I'd at least want 2 goals and a little bit of bonus minimum from it. So hopefully we can get the job done.
I like a Quentin. Solid team as always, but I do have one objection, if you don't mind me to say in the so-called confession room. I would consider putting Smith Rowe on field over Jacob Murphy. I feel this is a game where you look at Fulham's fixtures. This is one of the more juicy ones.
Yeah, it is a tough decision to have on the bench over Murphy, but I just have a feeling against Bournemouth, they conceded so many chances against Nottingham Forest. And I think Newcastle, with a full side, not 10 players this week, I think they could do a little bit of damage. And I know there is a narrative around Newcastle don't really perform as good away from home, but I think being early in the season, I think we might see Murphy with a chip on his shoulder after getting benched after 28 minutes last week come out firing. So I'm sort of leaning towards that, but obviously you're not 100% locked in, so there could be a late switch to Smith Rowe. But yeah, it is a very 50-50 decision for me.
I think it would be easier to field Smith Rowe if you didn't have two Fulham assets on field already. If it was just another one, then fair enough. But treble Fulham, I agree in the fact that's a lot at stake. That's a lot of eggs in one basket.
Yeah, like if it finished 1-0 to Leicester, I'd just be...
That's a weekend ruined.
Yeah, especially if Haaland doesn't haul. Yeah, no, so I think, if I didn't have Beniz, I'd be more inclined to play Smith Rowe, but definitely there's going to be a time in the next week or two that I'm going to have all three on the field. So,
yeah, I can't wait for that game where you do have treble up Fulham, and
it'll be next week, I think, with Rashford getting. Yeah, so I'm going to have Rashford probably benched and Smith Rowe starting over him next week.
Right, okay. Well, treble Fulham. There's one person that is just keen to echo those words and just hear it through people's veins, and that is Cole Bungler, one of our top fans of the Addicts podcast page. But some intriguing stuff, it's Son to Foden. People already thinking about moves after 1 week, and I think it's such an exhilarating discussion already. What was a big talking point through the course of a week in your eyes? Was it people trying to avoid the Quansah price drop, or was it something else?
I think it was just the overreaction to week one. So there was people like that had Son or had Palmer or had Watkins, or people that went Salah and now trying to burn like -4s and -8s to get to Haaland for this game week. And it's been quite frantic. And then obviously if the news of Quansah on top, Barco getting shipped off to the Spanish league, like it's just been so much chaos in terms of that side of thing. But then also the transfers incoming as well, which has then made other assets more appealing. And seeing Anderson sign for Fulham, I think
that's big.
Makes Robertson an even better option, in my opinion, because that then lifts the potential for clean sheets on top of his attack and return. So I feel like this game week, there's just so many talking points. And then obviously over the last couple of days, we've got the triple captain Haaland talk as well, which I've only fueled more by talking on this podcast, making TikToks about it, talking it on our podcast. And then I think I was on a space today on Twitter talking about it. So I feel like there's a lot of talking points, but one thing I will say is we need to be patient. We knew the fixture swings. We knew week one was a good fixture for certain players, but we know the next 2 to 3 for those players. Yeah, so I feel like you backed your team to start off with. You kind of need to just stick it out at least for the next couple of game weeks before making any drastic sort of changes.
I agree, because speaking of sticking with it, that's exactly what I've done. No transfers, but there is one on-field change. It looks relatively straightforward too. Robinson comes in on-field for Mykolenko based on the fixture. Henderson, Trent, great fixture. Robinson, we know much of. Vardy at home to Ipswich. Jota, Gibbs White away at Southampton. I thought he created 3 chances, potentially to an extent a little unlucky. We'll see how he goes this week. Ezia home to West Ham, have to hold regardless. In the contrary, as opposed to what everyone said, Son has got vice captain. Like, I'm just going to hold on to him because it's the reason why we've chosen him. Newcastle away and Arsenal at home. That's actually not bad fixtures for him in his next 2. That is if he's able to still stay promising out there. Haaland captain, no triple captain. Menis, Quentin's favourite man, Isaac, Rogers, Mykolenko, and the guy that is already in another country, third sub. That's it.
I like it, mate. Solid. I think definitely could see Eze getting returns this week. I think he was very unlucky last week. But I think you've got everything covered. I actually really like looking at my team, looking at your team. It's set up for the next few game weeks. And yes, it was disappointing week 1 for myself. But look at our sides this week. We have the luxury of rolling a transfer, me possibly rolling another one next week, going into game week 4 with 3 free transfers.
That's a good period, I feel, to just make a couple of moves and what's needed. And we get a lot of data by then too.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Dally Paul, just before I go, Captain's Corner, thank you very much. Liked and subscribed to the channel. We do appreciate it. Look, at the end of the day, we try our best on a weekly basis, whether it's food analogies or chucking 50p in to other studio panel members because they don't really know how to use the functions properly. We give it a crack. That's all I'll say. Captain's Corner time now. We'll go straight to it. And now in terms of Haaland stats, I will give a bit of credit to Quentin because it was relatively last minute for me this week. And I do apologise if it's not thorough. And I apologise for those that have got no Son. But a Son should be on the way in due course. But let's start with the guy who's being talked about in terms of triple captaincy. It's not even the double game week. It being Erling Haaland. He got his goal last week. And what is quite staggering is ever since he's got into the Premier League, he's already scored 17 goals against promoted sides, which is incredible. Mo Salah at home to Brentford, who has a really good record. 5 goals, 5 assists in the space of 7 games. However, his match day 2 appearances, he's had 7 of them. He's only scored 1 goal and 2 assists. But nonetheless, he is a solid alternative to those who don't have Haaland. Bukayo Saka away at Aston Villa. He got 12 points last week at home to Wolves. 4 chances created, 5 shots in the box, and only 1 occasion last season where he managed to achieve more in terms of his playmaking in a game last season. That was game week 36 at home to Bournemouth, where he managed to get 4 chances and 6 shots in the box that game. But the curveball option, fireworks, he may come back from the Olympics. Got a few minutes in his legs. Boom, boom, boom. It's time to shake not just the room, but plenty of other Premier League venues this season. And Jean-Philippe Mateta at home to West Ham. I'll tell you why it's a good pick, because he did score in all 7 of Crystal Palace's home matches last season, ever since Oliver Glasner took over in game week 25. And he also scored against the Hammers last season. Very nice, short and sharp, because the conversation is dominated mainly by one Norwegian, but a solid alternative for what managers see it as a running Egyptian, with managers already running away to a fast fantasy start. Catch you back in for next week for Captains Corner. So we pretty much just wrap it up from there. Quentin, before I leave it at the hour and 20 mark, any final notes or food analogies that you may have forgotten to mention for tonight, or any of them for the steak and futures?
Yeah, no, there's people are talking about the triple captaincy this week. I know you're going to get the benefit of, a lowly or a less owned Haaland this game week, but I feel like this definitely another factor. This is probably the lowest Haaland's going to be owned this season, and you have the chance to triple captain that less owned Haaland compared to maybe a double game week in week 28, 29, when he's about 70 to 80% owned. So I think definitely if you are on the fence, just have a think. Listen to me, mate. I've never let you down.
Yeah. Have a think for those on the fence. Or alternatively, what Quentin said last season is you could just have a hard think about it, have a cold shower, go for a nap, and after that, see what happens. Yeah. There you go.
Have a dingo's breakfast, glass of water, bit of bread, and a good look around.
That does it for Game Week 2. May all of your arrows be green, but more importantly, vol on a match day sorted.